The mystery of marijuana lies in its complexity. The synthesis of one component, THC, forms the drug Marinol.
Nobody knows why marijuana works so well as an anti-nausea agent and as an appetite stimulant. And this is evident when you look at the clinical outcome when you try to use Navalon or Marinol. The effects are prolonged, 12, 15, 18, 24 hours. People will remain completely intoxicated. Most people find it extremely unpleasant, the anxiety and the paranoia that goes along with it.
All I remember is one experience on Marinol that went on for 7 hours of nausea, waves and waves of nausea and puking. And of course, I've never put Marinol in my body again, nor will I ever.
Donald Abrams surprised the establishment by proposing a study of the whole plant.
We've been trying since 1993 to conduct a study or design a study to investigate whether smoking marijuana is useful in patients with HIV infection and at the same time whether it's safe. It's been difficult, certainly, to obtain a legal source of marijuana and to get funding to conduct the study.
Could this illegal drug be beneficial?
The comments that we ultimately got were comments that were concerned about why we would even consider studying such a toxic substance. So there was also one reviewer, and these were going to be patients with AIDS wasting, who was concerned that if we stimulated appetite and patients started to eat too much, they might develop high blood fats and hardening of the arteries. Now, this is not something that patients with AIDS really have the luxury of worrying about. So I was concerned about whether my peers that were reviewing this were really peers. For some reason, this emotional political charge is very present and makes it very difficult for science to go on in the midst of all that politics.
Kent Berridge and Terry Robinson are studying addiction, focusing on a chemical called dopamine. Its release in the brain measures the importance of every pleasant stimulus. It could be food, or sex, or drugs. Rats have the same dopamine system. Self-administered hard drugs release dopamine, but they also change the brain. Cells in the dopamine system normally look like this. But hard drugs cause them to grow, become sensitized, and send an exaggerated message.
As far as we know, drugs like marijuana don't produce this neural sensitization, which may account for why animals won't readily self-administer THC. It might account for why people who use marijuana really aren't characterized as compulsive drug takers or drug seekers.
Most sophisticated drug researchers now believe that cannabis's place as a drug of addiction is down at the bottom of the list with coffee. Cannabis is a truly remarkably non-toxic drug.
And marijuana will take the place of a lot of prescription drugs. It'll take the place of Valium. It'll take the place of Xanax. It will take the place of Tylenol.
Hi there, I'm Mark Emery of Mark Emery Direct Seeds, of course. And in this room we have the first Sensimilla edition in North America of the Aussie Bushman, which won first place in the 2000 Nimbin Cup. And these are spectacular. If you look at these frosty resinous colas popping up all around me, really large flowering growth for just 3.5 weeks into flowering. Imagine how they're going to look at 8 weeks. They're going to be stunning. And these seeds are available from Irish Rose Seed Company at only $45 for 10 seeds. And that's spectacular for a cup winner out of Australia. It won second place in North America at our smoking test last year. And I think you're going to find this one of the most adorable sativas you can have in your home collection. And I urge you to get the Aussie Bushman from Mark Emery Direct Seeds. That's me. And good gardening.
Like if I feel to not want dinner some night, tired, or don't feel like really a dinner, my wife turns around and looks at me, honey, maybe you better have a cigarette, marijuana. Maybe you better have a marijuana. For sure. It's been terrific.
To possess and grow marijuana is illegal, as Terry Parker found out.
The charge against me is with cultivation and possession for the purpose of trafficking. I developed epilepsy at 4 years of age. I was growing it because I simply, with my budget, cannot afford the price of marijuana as free as it is today. And I thought it was much more convenient for myself to grow my own medicine.
At his trial, Terry was represented by Aaron Harnett.
We structured the case, both the Crown Attorney and I, in such a way that we agreed with the obvious and spent our time in a quasi-scientific inquiry, putting some of the best minds in the area up on the stand, and we were educating ourselves as well as the judge as the trial went on. Valerie was a tremendous witness.
It was my good fortune to be able to travel to Toronto and to testify in this most incredible case, and really has...
Really a landmark case.
Yes, truly. Because of its bearing on constitutionality, which is remarkable.
We wanted a remedy fashioned that would help a whole range of people who have a medical need for marijuana. And the judge agreed with us, and he actually declared that law invalid for all of Canadians, and tinkered with it a bit to allow Terry and people like Terry to be able to possess and grow marijuana for medical purposes.
Tonight, Terry Parker can smoke a joint legally.
An illegal drug makes legal history.
But the federal government has since appealed the verdict.
We've relegated to the courts the difficult policy decisions that Parliament seems unwilling to tackle. If they can blame the courts and say, well, it's those crazy judges who made it legal, not us, then that might get them off the hook. And so long as sick people are being stupidly prosecuted, then that is the court's role to step in and make sure it stops.
The unchanging official view of marijuana conveniently obscures more serious problems. RCMP Constable Gil Putter on Vancouver's east side.
Anybody who abuses any substance has got some serious underlying problems and should be dealt with by a medical practitioner, a counselor, an educator. That simply arresting, incarcerating, punishing somebody is counterproductive. It's only going to make the problem worse. Maybe that's wishful thinking.
It's hard to enforce an unreasonable law.
A lot of kids on the steps are smoking. Some of them might be smoking marijuana.
Still a place where they're picked up for that?
Certainly the officers that I work with are not particularly concerned about anybody in possession of a small amount of marijuana or consuming it for their own purposes. I think where the concern is trafficking to young people and possession in the schools, that type of thing. People that I encounter who've used cannabis, whether a small or large amount, are generally quite passive, easy to deal with, and I really can't remember ever having a problem with anybody. Marijuana is not nearly as harmful as alcohol, tobacco, or any of the opiates. Marijuana is, particularly for recreational and medical uses, relatively harmless.